Welcome to the Service Game, where serve starts the story. I'm your host, Ivy J, and in today's episode, I'll be talking about the Indian Wells Open. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm really happy that we're in our golden swing, which is known as like the Indian Wells followed by Miami Open, because it's truly one of my favorite times of the year. It's really interesting because we have two back-to-back 1,000 tournaments, and I think a lot of people sort of call this as the fifth Grand Slam because of how important the two tournaments are and how they're back-to-back. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot to talk about. Although the tennis action started midweek last week, there has been quite a few interesting matches on both the women's side and the men's side that I really recommend you guys go back to check out. So I'll be pointing some of those out. But before we get into that, I kind of want to get into our main segment, which is the toss. The toss covers the sort of news around the tennis world that's not necessarily happening on the court. So the first point of the toss I want to get into is Craig Tiley, who was the former Australian Open director, is now the new USTA CEO. So USTA stands for the United States Tennis Association. So instead of taking part in the Australian Open in Melbourne, he's going to now play an important role in the US Open. And I don't know, it's just really interesting because before he left and sort of like at the end of this year's Australian Open, he put out the statement that he would love to see best of 5-set women's matches at Grand Slams. And I believe I also shared my opinion on that. So if you guys want to go check that out, I think it was like the second or third episode. But yeah, I'm just really interested because he's someone that's going to make a move and make an impact wherever he is. And I don't know if it's going to necessarily happen in Australia now because he's leaving, but the question is, what is he going to bring to the US Open? I think something that really makes the US Open and Australia stands out is their fan events. So for example, for the US Open, we have Fan Week, which fans get to attend for the first week for free. And then Australia, we recently introduced the 1 Point Slam. And I mean, you can count the mixed doubles in New York as sort of like a fan event, but they market it as like it's like a real event, whatever, but it's more of an exhibition. So I'm just wondering, what is he going to bring to the US Open that's unique to him? And I think also, it's just, one thing personally for me, I really want him to fix is the prices for tickets, because I feel like even though all 4 Grand Slams are unique, Australia and the US Open are most similar in the way that they're both played on hard courts and they just have this really welcoming atmosphere. But the difference is the price of the ticket. Australia is known for being one of the most accessible Grand Slams because the tickets are relatively cheap compared to the other 3 Grand Slams. And the US Open is known for having really, really high prices for tickets. It's truly just like out of hand. So I really do hope for me and just for all the fans out there that he can maybe solve this problem. Okay, second news is Sabalenka got engaged. Congrats. She got her 12-carat diamond ring to her long-term boyfriend, and she's been hinting it a while now, especially in Melbourne. So I'm really happy that, yeah, she is engaged. And then the third I want to talk about is Naomi Osaka's new kit. So at Indian Wells, she debuted with her new kit, which according to her is inspired by a leopard. And she said that it's really interesting because the fabric, depending on the way she moves, it absorbs different lights from the sky and it changes colors. I mean, the last time she played on night session, so we couldn't really see the color of her dress changing. But yeah, I really liked her fit. I really like how she came out with like the mouthpiece, which I think is really new. And I like also just like a small thing is how she customized her Instagram feed. I found that to be quite, I don't know, I like when players sort of curate their whole social media based on their court outfit. I feel like it's just something that I've never seen before, and it's something that is really interesting, especially for like athletes. Okay, now let's get into our main segment, the hit. Welcome to the hit. So let's talk about the 3 men's matches that I really enjoyed and I feel like you guys should go check out. Also, all of the matches that I mentioned will be linked in the show notes. Like all the highlights will be linked in the show notes. So if you guys want to go check out the highlights, just go to the show notes. So the first match I want to talk about is Denis Shapovalov defeating Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-2, 3-6, 6-4. So this match, I feel like kind of is the battle of 2 players who was really hyped up and have achieved some pretty incredible things when they were younger a few years back, but now they've sort of have fallen from the really top competitive group of people, if that makes any sense. So, however, I really did think that this was an entertaining matchup because both of these players had two one-handed backhands. So they both had one-handed backhands, and that's, I feel like, getting rarer and rarer nowadays. And I really do think it was just really interesting because Tsitsipas is clearly not someone that he was. Like, now, because he lost in Indian Wells, he's going to be almost out of the world's top 50. And I think it's just really sad because he did try to change something. For example, last year he tried his partnership with Goran Ivanisevic, and that was such a really, I feel like, a good move from him. Like, because even though Goran might not necessarily save him, but Goran is such an incredible coach based on his experience, and for him to just, like, I don't know, do 2 months, and Goran said some things about his fitness which wasn't, probably just showed how behind Tsitsipas really is. But for Tsitsipas to just like end that partnership, which I think is understandable, but to go back to his dad is really just not, I think, a wise choice to make, because he keeps on going back to his dad as the default if any partnership doesn't work. But I just feel like at this point we know that your sort of partnership with your dad isn't working, so why are you keep on like falling back to him, if that makes any sense? And it's really interesting because Shapovalov won all of their meetings on hard courts, and yeah, it's just quite interesting because I think Tsitsipas, in a way, he kind of choked on the last point. Like, the match point just showed how unsure Tsitsipas was. He sort of staggered to hit the ball. He was kind of caught off guard, and I think it just showed how he kind of like choked in a way. And however, I really do want to point out that even though both of these players are in clutch, Shapovalov have this incredible forehand, and I just feel like Tsitsipas really, like, especially on slow hard courts like Indian Wells, he doesn't have any like major weapon to hurt his opponent, whereas Shapovalov does. So yeah, I really do think this is something that Tsitsipas, I don't know, he just needs to regroup. I keep on saying that. I feel like everyone's saying that he needs to just come back with a new mindset, but I feel like just a symbol of him not doing that is just continuously going back to his dad as his coach. Okay, the second match I want to talk about is Felix Auger-Aliassime defeating the wildcard Gaël Monfils with a score of 6-7, 6-3, 6-4. So I do want to say Monfils played incredible. I know this is his last year on tour, and this is his last Indian Wells match, but I really do think he played like at least in the world top 20 level. the first point in the second game of the second set by Monfils is incredible. It was an incredible forehand. I think just every time I watch him play, I get reminded of how athletic he is and how he's such like a talented and entertaining player to watch. And I also want to mention that FAA Felix Auger-Aliassime was in top form coming into this tournament. So to be challenged by a wildcard receiver like Monfils is really impressive from Monfils' part. And I really do think both played really well. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if any, like I was reading truly for both of them. But because FAA is moving on, I really do hope he makes more noise in the outdoor hardcourt season because he's playing really good tennis. Especially, I feel like in the past few months, he has been going consistently really deep into tournaments, winning several titles. Winning a title and also getting into the finals, getting to the semifinals of tournaments. And I know he's really good at indoor hardcourts, and now we're moving on to outdoor hardcourts. But I really do hope he sort of just uses that as his momentum and I also feel like he needs more of a confidence boost, and I think his success on the indoor hardcourts will definitely give him that boost that he needs. So I really do hope he goes on to go further in this tournament. Okay, our third match on the men's side is João Fonseca defeating our 16th seed, Karen Khachanov, with a score of 4-6, 7-6, 6-4. So Fonseca actually saved 2 match points in the second set tiebreak, and I felt like that sort of just caught Khachanov a little bit off guard. And Fonseca definitely needed this win because he did not do well in the Rio Open or the Argentina Open. And I think because he's from Brazil, he had a lot of pressure to perform well at those 2 events. But I really do think this win was much needed, and he kind of eased into this match slowly, I felt that in the beginning he was, especially in the first set, it kind of just like went by. I believe he was down like 2-5, but he managed to make a little comeback, and the second set was just really close, and he managed to win all the clutch points in the tiebreak. Also, I don't know, like the other thing I want to point off is from Khachanov. He has such a weird forehand. Like, I think this is a new change he made to his game, but it like works. I don't know, like he prepares in a way that is so late. Like he prepares at the very last second, and the way he draws his racket back with both of his hands is quite like dramatic. But the way he can hit the ball with so much power in his forehand, I believe, is truly his biggest weapon, is really interesting. So yeah, please go check that out and let me know your thoughts, because it's a really unique sort of preparation to hit a ball. And the second set tiebreak was really entertaining. So if you guys want to go check that out, I really, really do recommend. And the next round, Fonseca will be playing against Tommy Paul, which should be an interesting matchup. I think it will definitely attract a lot of people. So I'm really excited for that matchup. Okay, we'll take a little break and we'll continue our hit segment to talk about the women's side. Okay, welcome back to the hit, and now we'll talk about the women's side. So the first match I want to talk about is a round 1 matchup between Jacqueline Christian, who defeated Janice Chen with a score of 4-6, 6-4, 7-6. This, I feel like, isn't a match that you'll find that was talked about by a lot of people, but really the deciding set tiebreak was such a great tiebreak. And I kind of just want to mention Chen's really interesting approach to hitting a tennis ball. So she has a really, really good forehand, but for his backhand, I don't think she hit a single proper backhand. I think all of her backhands were slices, but I really do think it is something unique to her, but maybe adding a few backhands will definitely be better, because I think that weakness was truly exposed in the deciding set tiebreak, where Christian would just continue attacking the slice, and sometimes it will Janice Chen will be able to use the slice to sort of catch Christian off guard, but most of the times, especially in the deciding points, her slice just keeps on landing short or just sort of sits up right where Christian can just strike the ball. So yeah, but there was a really, really good point on the first point of the deciding set tiebreak was a really great point. Really do recommend you guys checking out the tiebreak. I kind of just wanted to point this match out because I just feel like Janice Chen's approach to using only slices is something that's sort of almost in a way reminiscent of Ash Barty, because Ash Barty is also known for just using her slices. But yeah, it was just a really unique sort of way. I don't know. It was just really entertaining and sort of like a brush of fresh air. Sorry, I can't talk today. Okay. Our second match I want to talk about is Camila Osorio, who defeated Eva Jovic 4-6, 7-6, 6-3. This was such a great match. Like, okay, I have 4 on the women's side because there were just some incredible matches. But yeah, this was amazing. So Osorio came back from 4-6, 3-5 down. She saved 2 match points. And on the final match, the second match point she saved, she hit a drop shot. So that was really her ability to trust herself to hit a drop shot on a match point is just insane, because that's something that I can never do. And yeah, both of these players are relatively shorter compared to the rest of the field, but their ball striking was crazy. They were hitting the living daylight out of the ball. And Osorio is such a fighter because, I mean, both of these players were playing really so good, and for her to come back is just, yeah, I really like this match. It was just such a great match. And her next round opponent is Naomi Osaka, which I don't know if I've talked about here, but Osaka has been my favorite player since like 2019. So this would be a really interesting matchup, but I do think Osorio, if she plays like the way she plays today, she will be a challenge for Osaka. Okay, our third match is our 7th seed Jasmine Paolini, who defeated Anastasia Potapova 6-7, 6-2, 6-3. Paolini needed this, and I think this is the best tennis she played this season by far. I mean, there were just some points where Paolini was able to just hit straight up winners off of Potapova's serves, which I feel like isn't some things you see really often, because Potapova is so much more taller compared to Paolini. And I think that's just a common theme, is just Paolini's ability to hit these balls and just sort of even dominate players that are so much taller than her is really impressive. And it was a really fun match, but I think Potapova in the final set, when she failed to convert 3 of her break points, she sort of like lost her composure a little, which sort of caused this match to slip by her. But yeah, again, I really enjoyed this match. Please go watch it. I mean, Paolini, whenever she wins, she just has this smile on her face, and yeah, I just love her. Okay. Our final match I want to talk about is between our 31st seed Alex Eala, who defeated Dayana Yastremska 7-5, 4-6, 7-5. This was also an incredible match. Eala still, I think her weakness is just her serve. I feel like that has been her weakness. But, I mean, Yastremska really choked on her last game. She had 15 double faults. And the crowd, despite being extremely one-sided to Eala's favor, I'm glad that in the end, both of these players shared a hug at the net. And it was an intense match. And I think this is one of the match that will be known as one of the grind matches, because both of these players they weren't playing at their best, especially for Eala, which a lot of credits to her because I believe she was reported to be sick, or at least she had like a cold. So yeah, for her to come out here and still win this match is it just shows it's just, as I said, the ultimate grind match. But her next round opponent will be Coco Gauff, which should be a really interesting matchup, and I can't wait. But yeah, I think that's all for today's episode. That's all for today's The Hit segment. Now let's get into the follow-through. So for the follow-through, there isn't really that much to talk about, but I just want to add that I'm really interested to see how the big names will do. So namely Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz, Draper, and Fils. I mean, for Draper and Fils, I feel like both of these players, they've been coming back from injuries, and this is sort of their first like official really big tournament back. And I know both of them went through to the third round, so I really want to see how they will do. And then on the women's side, Sabalenka, this is her, I think, second time playing. I'm not quite sure, but this is her first like time playing outside of Australia. Like after that final loss, I feel like this is her like first big tournament back, and I'm really interested to see how she will do as well. And then Gauff as well. I mean, she did manage to find her form a little at the end of the Middle East tournaments. And then Keys, obviously, I really do hope she does well. Pegula, I think I really have high hopes for Pegula. I think her run in Qatar really her run in Dubai really showed me how when she's locked in, she's able to win these incredible matches, and I really do hope, because it's Indian Wells, I think the crowd will be cheering behind her, and truly I think she's in one of her top forms right now, so I really do hope she goes far. Rybakina as well, she's our Australian Open champion, but however, I feel like she's been playing so much tennis, and I feel like her match against Baptiste just shows she's been a little bit just like running out of steam, but we'll see how she does. But yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for listening. I think the next week's episode, we will be continuing to talk about Indian Wells. Subscribe wherever you're listening, rate the show. And in terms of my second serve ideas, please comment if you guys have any. I was going to publish a second serve post this week, but I just had so much stuff to do. I thought that because I had a week off, I could just work on my second serve, but I was just studying for my midterms that were coming up, so I'm really sorry that I didn't manage to publish it this week, but for sure, and I promise, a post will be coming out in March. So yeah, but let the serves continue, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.